And welcome back to Tracer Burnout. I'm Dan.
And I'm Roger.
And this is our first Thanksgiving special episode.
First of many.
Hopefully. God willing.
Hopefully.
And we figured that we would give you a little something to keep you occupied while you were on your travels.
While you were safely driving over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house.
Yes. So while you're on your way to see friends and family and share a bountiful feast with them, then you can listen to our melodious voice.
Melodious indeed.
Yes.
Dulcet tones even.
Dulcet tones across your journey.
Indeed. So we want this to be an annual tradition. And so within that annual tradition, we're going to kick this thing off with a little bit of history, because everybody at this point knows we're history nerds. So in a moment here, I'm going to read President George Washington's Thanksgiving Proclamation. Do you have any cool historical backdrop that you would like to add to give texture to this, Daniel?
Well, I mean, he was already president at this point. It was his first term. Mm-hmm. And so we had gotten rid of those pesky Articles of Confederation. So that was probably plenty to be thankful for alone.
Indeed.
So take it away.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. And in the spirit of pretentiousness, I'll be reading this on top of a copy of the Canterbury Tales as a hat tip to our British friends. Okay. 3 October 1789, Proclamation, Thanksgiving by the President of the United States of America. A proclamation. Whereas it is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey His will, to be grateful for His benefits, and humbly to implore His protection and favor. And whereas both houses of Congress have by their joint committee requested me to recommend to the people of the United States a day of public thanksgiving and prayer to be observed by acknowledging with grateful hearts the many signal favors of Almighty God, especially by affording them an opportunity peaceably to establish a form of government for their safety and happiness. Now, therefore, I do recommend and assign Thursday, the 26th day of November, next to be devoted by the people of these United States to the service of that great and glorious being, who is the beneficent author of all the good that was, that is, or that will be, that we may then all unite in rendering unto Him our sincere and humble thanks for His kind care and protection of the people of this country, previous to their becoming a nation, for the signal and manifold mercies, and the favorable interpositions of His providence, which we experienced in the course and conclusion of the late war, for the great degree of tranquility, union, and plenty, which we have since enjoyed, for the peaceable and rational manner in which we have been enabled to establish constitutions of government for our safety and happiness, and particularly the national one, now lately instituted, for the civil and religious liberty with which we are blessed, and the means we have of acquiring and diffusing useful knowledge, and in general for all the great and various favors which He hath been pleased to confer upon us. And also that we may then unite in most humbly offering our prayers and supplications to the great Lord and ruler of nations, and beseech Him to pardon our national and other transgressions, to enable us all, whether in public or private stations, to perform our several and relative duties properly and punctually, to render our national government a blessing to all the people by constantly being a government of wise, just, and constitutional laws, discreetly and faithfully executed and obeyed, to protect and guide all sovereigns and nations, especially such as have shown kindness unto us, and to bless them with good government, peace, and concord, to promote the knowledge and practice of true religion and virtue, and the increase of science among them and us, and generally to grant unto us all mankind such a degree of temporal prosperity as He alone knows to be best. Given under my hand at the city of New York, the 3rd day of October in the year of our Lord, 1789. George Washington. Man, don't you miss the days when politicians were eloquent? Written then as if it were today. I mean, obviously kind of a time capsule, a little bit older English, of course, but
more flowery language.
A little bit.
You know,
rhetoric.
Yes. But still far more eloquent than many of our statesmen that we have today, and women, stateswomen also.
Stateswomen.
Yes.
It was a different time. I think it's fair to say that George Washington was certainly one of the greatest men to ever live. Although he was, not without his flaws, but
of course,
the character of the man. King George said he was one of the greatest men that ever lived. So
yes, because when George heard that George Washington was not going to become a king, he said, "By God, he's one of the greatest men who's ever lived."
That's right.
If it's true,
it is apocryphal, but yes.
But yes, I think that's fair to say.
I think George III gets a bad rap. I mean, as far as monarchs go, he actually was a pretty good one, believe it or not. I know that's our American history books often vilify him. You could do a lot worse.
Yeah. Indeed. And unlike many monarchs of the time, he was actually faithful to his wife, and everybody thought he was crazy.
He adored his wife.
Yes, and gardening.
It's very charming, actually. So
his wife and gardening.
Yeah.
How very unroyal.
Unroyal indeed. Okay, we're going to roll into some Thanksgiving fare here. So,
yes.
Military Thanksgiving, history, traditions, etc. So, during wartime and peacetime, what do you think?
I don't know specifically when it began. I believe it was during the World War I years. But, the whole we'll be home by Christmas kind of thing. Well, we weren't. And so the military has since then gone out of its way, sometimes ridiculously so, to make sure that troops, especially troops abroad, have 2 special meals a year. And those 2 meals are Thanksgiving and Christmas. And yes, sometimes it's just mermites that are kicked out of the truck at whatever thin slice of hell you and your platoon are stationed at the time. But cold mermite turkey and gravy is still far superior to an MRE.
I think I speak for both of us when I say that, to your point, it is indeed the thought that counts. If you are getting some kind of tea ration or something that's not exactly a delicious, delectable USDA top grade. Yeah, I know, we're both kind of laughing at the thought. The thought does count in that, Uncle Sam going through such effort to make sure that we get that goes a long way.
Yeah. So
I've had very similar experiences, whether it's in the Hindu Kush, Iraq. I've had a couple other Thanksgivings in other places where there weren't, mass troop formations, so it was a little different when you're kind of alone and unafraid.
But when it comes to, during times of peace or troops, in garrison, the tradition of the meal in the chow hall being essentially an amazing banquet.
Yes.
Is also great. And members of the chain of command are there, sitting there serving their soldiers, whether it's
in their fine uniforms too,
in their mess dress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a nice tradition to have, and Army food gets a bad rap, but Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
Amazing. I used to love going with my dad to those things.
Yes.
He would be sitting there serving the troops, and I would be scraping all the candy from the Horn of Plenty into a bag that I had brought with me.
That sounds like something little Dan would do.
Yes.
Just for those of you who've not seen this tradition, it is a tradition that the senior officers and non-commissioned officers within a unit will put on their nice uniform. So we're mostly familiar with the Army, but I know the other services do something or at least very similar to it anyway. So think of ribbons and all the shiny and all the brass and all the stuff, and they will literally put on their gloves and their hairnets and stand and serve
their
soldiers as they go through the lines. And this is a tradition that just kind of extends back for a pretty long way, but they're trying to get after the servant leader perspective that hopefully we're employing 365 days out of the year and not just as a symbolic gesture, but that's symbolism is important too.
Taking care of your troops before you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very good.
But speaking of the troops, there's also the Turkey Bowl.
The Turkey Bowl. So
Yes.
I'll field this one. I've been in a lot of different types of units as well. And almost all of them have done what we call a Turkey Bowl, which is a unit, mass unit, usually flag. I've seen tag a couple times, but flag football game. And I've seen it divided up. Sometimes it's officers versus enlisted. Sometimes I've seen it broken. It depends on the makeup of the unit, because I was in some units that were very officer heavy.
Yeah.
So
squad against squad or platoon against platoon. Sometimes it's company.
I've been in several that were company on company because the disposition of the unit was kind of different. But anyway, it's very, very competitive. It's almost to a fault. Like I've seen guys just get completely crushed.
Many a soldier who went through multiple tours in combat and came out unscathed has left the Turkey Bowl
with a spiral fracture.
Thoroughly scathed.
The guy's got 70 jumps, and he's first spiral fractures on running a flag route during the Turkey Bowl.
Yeah, but I mean, it's usually one of the last things that you do with your unit before you break for the holiday. So if you've got your 4-day weekend, so Wednesday morning for PT, you do the Turkey Bowl, and then everybody is released early to allow them to catch their flights, start driving, what have you, to get ready for Thanksgiving on Thursday.
Not to forget the all-important safety brief that the commander and the sergeant major are going to give prior to everybody going and drinking way too much wild turkey over the weekend and making bad decisions. So the Turkey Bowl. So for all the other services that are listening, if you participated in something very similar to that, just in the comments or whatever, just down below. Let us know.
Yeah. Hit us up on the social medias and let us know what the other services traditions are. I don't think Space Force is old enough to have any traditions because, again, they're not real. I'm going to keep saying that until a Space Force veteran begs to come on and talk to us.
Well, they're not going to want to beg based off of the warm salutations that they've given them.
Well, I mean, until then, I don't believe that they exist. And therefore, by not really existing, they don't have any traditions.
Well, that is true. As a new service, they need to build their traditions. They're in the build. It's a building year. Just like it's an NFL team, right? Okay, next.
Yep.
We're going to do a nonprofit showcase. So Dan and I have each selected a nonprofit organization that is service-oriented, just to give them a little bit of extra respect and to tell everybody about them. We're going to keep it a little bit short. The one I will be doing, and disclosure, I'm a recently added member of the board to this organization, I'm proud to say, is Eagle Rock Camp, which is in western North Carolina in the mountainous area, not too far from Hickory.
Yep.
And they are a outdoor retreat type nonprofit that specializes in ministering to families of service members who are suffering from PTSD and other kinds of mental health trauma and things like that. So they'll bring the entire family out, and they bring military chaplains who are off duty, so they are not in their official capacity while they're there, and they will minister to these families, and they'll do all kinds of wonderful activities and things like that. Get some outdoor time, which we all know, especially the kids, probably these days don't get as much outdoor time as they should. So unplug a little bit, go spend some time together, do some prayer, some exercises, some things like that,
and enjoy the great outdoors.
Yeah. So, and it's in beautiful western North Carolina, which is suffering right now. So we would also ask everybody to just say a little prayer for our good friends out in western North Carolina. So.
Well, that leads me to mine, because I would like to recommend Samaritan's Purse, which I know that it's not in the news anymore because, the news cycle moves so quickly.
The election overcame everything.
Yes, but the people of western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, western South Carolina, even some parts of eastern Virginia on the little tip, and other areas that are still horribly affected by Hurricane Helene, and it's going to take them forever and a day to
Years.
recover.
Years.
Samaritan's Purse is still out there doing great things. And there are a lot of veterans, especially from the special ops sector, that are out there leading the way. And even though it's not in the news anymore, the people out there still really need the help. And while you're sitting there enjoying your turkey with your family and stuff, remember there are people out there that lost everything, and they would be grateful for whatever you can send their way.
Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son, is the leader of that organization, and they were very, very well placed in that they were in Boone, North Carolina when that happened. So you can look at it as a blessing that one of the world's best responders to natural disasters was, I mean, you want to use all the cliches. I mean, they were at ground zero for this, and were able to react as quickly as possible. So we also asked, please, if you have some money to spare, if you would continue to help with your donations to Samaritan's Purse, because they're out there doing the Lord's work.
Yep, and I mean they're still doing food drives and stuff like that as well.
They do a lot of really great international stuff too. So okay. Now on to food.
Near and dear to my heart.
So, Thanksgiving, turkey or no?
I like turkey on Thanksgiving, and maybe a couple of days afterwards for turkey sandwiches and such. But the rest of the year, not so much. It's a very heavy meat, and I don't particularly enjoy the taste.
Really?
Yeah.
So throughout the year, will you do turkey, cold cuts, things like that for sandwiches?
Yeah, maybe.
So you're talking specifically about a large roast or fried turkey?
Yes.
Okay. The first Thanksgiving, we have some notes and some journal entries from...
Yeah, they had lobsters, I think.
Right. So I think they make a comment in there, I'm doing this from memory, but about, wild fowl. I'm not entirely sure if it was turkeys per se. It could have been any one of a...
It could have been crows.
Yeah, for all we know, it was crows or some other kinds of scavenging birds. I don't know if we know, but yeah,
turkey vultures.
The first Thanksgiving obviously would have been up there in the Plymouth colony area, so a lot of shellfish to be had. So we can assume that at a minimum they probably had some oysters and things like that, and I think lobsters, and then whatever the agrarian society. And there's a whole lot of other really great history behind this. There's a lot of legend and a lot of history on this that a lot of people get wrong, by the way, because they just kind of go off of kind of
pop culture.
Yeah, pop culture, or like what I'm using air quotes, the oral tradition, which is some of it's made up. About how the Pilgrims are completely and utterly helpless and would have all died were it not for the Native Americans. That's exaggerated. I mean, yes, the Native Americans were very important in this scenario, but no, the Pilgrims were not helpless waifs of people just blowing around.
Really going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be talking about food.
I'm getting there, dude. So, for me, the turkey is going to be a absolute yes, and I would be fine with eating a turkey once a month on the 26th or whatever George Washington said. I would be fine with it. White or dark meat?
I'm not particular.
All of the above. Yeah. All of the above. Do you have a preference whether it's fried, roasted, etc.?
Not particularly.
I know you like to take your frozen turkey and put it in the deep fryer. I know that's one of your favorites.
Are you not supposed to do that? No, you're not supposed to do that.
This is our disclaimer.
It's the source of many a house fire.
That and the wild turkey, of course.
That and the wild turkey.
Okay. 3 favorite sides. We have a separate category for dessert, so we're going to come back to that. So 3 favorite sides.
Mac and cheese.
Okay, so we'll do this one at a time. So mac and cheese. I'm assuming this is going to be from scratch. So
Of course.
Okay, so we're not doing box.
No.
No blue box.
No.
Okay. Do you have a type of? We say macaroni, which is a type of pasta. However, do you have a noodle type that you prefer?
I mean, elbow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Yeah. I mean, I've made it with ziti before, or penne.
I like it with the little shells.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can definitely use the shells too. But yeah, elbow. It's typical.
Okay.
Stuffing, of course.
All right. We're going to come back to this, but okay, stuffing.
And sweet potatoes, mashed sweet potatoes with a sprinkling of brown sugar crumble and not overly much marshmallows. People tend to go overboard on the brown sugar.
So does it become a casserole at this point?
I mean, I guess it can, depending on what you put in there, but depending on how you prepare it, yeah.
I mean, it seems like the more ingredients you add to it, the more of a casserole it becomes.
Yeah. Speaking of casseroles, green bean casserole. It is either really good or really bad. There's like no middle ground for green bean casserole. And so that is why that is not on my top 3, because I have had both. And when it's good, it's really good. And when it's bad, it's really bad.
I'm going to call an audible here because we didn't discuss this.
Okay.
What are we'll say 1 or 2 most overrated?
Oh, easy. Cranberry sauce.
Okay.
Cranberry sauce, especially if it comes out of the can where it's just a gelatinous blob, and then people try to like slice it up into little, circular Jell-O discs. 1, it's disgusting. 2, it's not presentable. And 3, if you actually try to make it presentable by dumping a couple of cans in a bowl and like stirring it up, no, it's still the same crap. Now,
with all due respect.
Now, my mom actually does this cranberry dish where she actually uses real cranberries and a couple of other ingredients, and that's pretty good. It's super tart, but it's pretty good. It's a palate.
She's using whole.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of like a palate cleanser. But cranberry sauce is absolutely the most overrated.
Yeah, I was going to say, cranberries are best, because I don't know how many people, presumably not from the Northeast, who have ever had actual cranberries. I mean, they're very tart.
Yes.
When you take them whole. So
yes.
I think most people don't understand how much sugar has been added to them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially when you get them in like the trail mix bag where it's, dried bits of cranberry. Yeah, those aren't...
Yeah, most dried fruit has tremendous amounts of sugar added to it. So people think they're doing themselves a favor with eating something. They're like, it's healthy. It's not.
Look at the ingredients on your banana chips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or plantains if you're a
my goodness.
Communist gorillas from the... Oh, I'll stop.
Okay, so overrated. Overrated.
All right, so your overrated was cranberry, and was there a second one?
Nope.
Okay, you're going to stick with that.
Nope.
Okay, so my 3 favorite sides. I'm going to go with stuffing as well, because it's just one of those things you only have a couple times a year, which makes it a treat, unless you buy the stovetop.
Stouffer's?
Yeah, whichever brand. I think, in college I'd eat the Betty Crocker stuff just because it was so cheap.
Oh, yeah.
You just add water to it. Ugh. The amount of sodium I was ingesting. Good gracious. Okay, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with cranberry sauce, yes. But not the jellied, the
actual made from scratch
and
cranberries.
And my beloved wife as well know how to make it with you actually get the cranberry Jell-O and you make the whole cranberry sauce and you boil the actual bagged cranberries and do all the things. So yeah. I'm going to have to add that on my list. I know this is controversial. So stuffing, cranberry sauce, and then the go-to has to be mashed potatoes with gravy. Gravy could be considered
what
its
kind
own.
of gravy?
Turkey gravy,
giblet gravy.
I'm assuming by that you mean drippings from the bird. Is that? from the bird itself.
Well, you use the gizzard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, mashed potatoes with gravy.
Yeah.
That counts as one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll accept that. It's food. Yeah.
And for my overrated, I mean, it has to be the green bean casserole. My mother didn't make it growing up because she's a wise and sage woman and knew that it was overrated, and she raised me well. I never understood the fascination with it. Never.
I don't know.
Again, is it a tradition? Is it just we've always done it this way kind of thing? That
I think that's part of it, and also it's not terribly complicated to make to a large degree. You can find some very, very simple recipes, and sometimes simple recipes are good, but sometimes, looking at you, Campbell's, simple recipes are disgusting. For green bean casserole. We're talking specifically about green bean casserole here.
I can't remember the name. This is a total digression. There's a writer named James Lilacs who I just love. He's one of the most brilliant writers around, and years ago he published a book, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the name exactly, but it's like one of those big coffee table books with lots of pictures, and it's basically showcasing gross Americana food from yesteryear, because that's Lilacs. That's kind of his beat, is doing kind of campy stuff from like the 50s and 60s. That's kind of his thing. And some of the food, like olive loaf and like all that kind of stuff. It's just this massive book that has all this. Somebody thought that these delectable items were a good idea and mass produced them, and it is a mystery for the ages.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember the name of the book, but if you look up Lilacs, James Lilacs, and food, it's one of the first things that'll pop up. So there's a free plug.
Interesting.
Okay. Now, we've both agreed that stuffing is one of the best sides.
Yes, of course.
So here's a question. Is it called stuffing, or is it called dressing?
Well, it's on the way that it's prepared. Stuffing is actually stuffed inside the bird. Dressing is around the bird in the dish that you're baking.
So it's the presentation.
Well, it's the way it's prepared also. Because if it's on the outside of the bird, then it's soaking up the juices that flow out, right? But if it's stuffed inside the bird, I think it gets more flavorful because it is thoroughly drenched on everything that's inside the bird.
It's in the cavity.
I think dressing tends to be a little bit more crunchy because the stuff on the top isn't getting all those juices and everything. But stuffing is the way to go. Dressing is for godless heathens.
So, celery or not?
Sure.
People have strong opinions about celery, which bewilders me, considering it's basically tasteless. So
yeah. I think it's probably because the little strings get stuck in your teeth. But yes, I don't care. I'm not particular one way or another. Sure, it's fine.
Have you ever made stuffing and/or dressing from scratch?
No.
Yeah, nor have I, but I've seen it done.
No, I haven't. That would be interesting.
Well, it requires
maybe I'll try
leaving.
that this year.
It's stale bread, so
Yeah.
I mean, you're leaving bread out for at least 24 hours, probably longer. But
I might do that.
Yeah,
I might do that this year.
cleaning out the pantry.
No, just to do it.
Ah,
I like food.
this is the first I've heard of it. Okay, biscuits or rolls? Presumably from scratch.
Well, it's got to be from scratch. Curveball. Cornbread. I would say that cornbread is superior to both. But given just those two options, then obviously biscuits.
I mean, cornbread is unique in that it is an American foodstuff, which makes sense considering Thanksgiving is our holiday.
Yeah, Canada.
You and the Canadians and the French. So yes, the correct answer is all three. That is the correct answer.
I think you're wrong. Rolls do not belong on the Thanksgiving table. Go ahead, Canada. You can have those. You can have rolls, Canada.
Yeah. Dan yields
Yeah.
the rolls.
By all means, Canada. When you have your Thanksgiving,
Canucks.
you
Okay.
can have rolls.
Well, they do have Thanksgiving, isn't it? Like a week later or something.
Canadians don't really have anything to be thankful for.
Bless their hearts. So. Okay, so it's down to biscuits and or cornbread, and
yes.
my answer is all of the above.
Absolutely. Butter or jelly, though, or jam. Whatever.
No jelly. Jam is acceptable, but for a Thanksgiving meal, I would stick with just butter.
Yeah.
Just
what about preserves?
For a Thanksgiving meal or in general?
Well, yeah, for Thanksgiving.
I would stick with just butter.
Okay. Fair.
If you have to add something to sweeten it, then you just go with honey on that. I would.
Yeah, you could do that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But the biscuits should be used to soak up the gravy and all that stuff. That's why I wouldn't mix the sweet.
Yeah,
with that.
I use the biscuits or the cornbread or basically to clean up your plate before you go back for more.
Yeah, I mean, I would if I needed to get something sweet, I would get it from the amazing cranberry sauce that I just took off your plate. Okay. Before we get to the desserts, anything else on the food front?
Not particularly. I mean, I know that there are plenty of people out there that don't necessarily do turkey. Some people do ham.
Yeah.
Which is also acceptable. Yeah, I like food.
Yes, my family this year we'll be doing 2 Thanksgivings, and our second one will be ham.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
I'll say this before we move on to the desserts. One of my favorite things to do post meal is I'm really into bone broths. So I will take the whole, whatever bones are ready post meal will go into a bone bag, and then obviously there's usually some that aren't quite ready yet. Mm-hmm. In the next day or so following, they'll make it into the bone bag, and then once that the whole thing's done, then I'll make a big in the Instant Pot, which is a amazing cooking miracle. I will make a giant bone broth after that, and then with whatever leftover turkey we have, excuse me, we can have turkey soup, things like that.
That's what I usually end up doing is turkey soup with some vegetables and stuff.
And we intermix our bones. So if there's something from a ham hock or bone and pork chops, it's usually pork or chicken. But if we have anything else, it all just goes into the kitty. And
Good stuff.
Okay, desserts. Let's do 2. What are your 2? No. 3, because we're going to be greedy and fat. What are your 3 favorite desserts?
Very easy, because it's the best dessert all year round. So, pecan pie.
What about pecan pie?
No.
Pecan?
No. Everything else is not as good. All the other pies, and I'm not really a cake person, but cherry pie, apple pie, sweet potato pie, mincemeat pie, rhubarb pie, whatever, all of those are vastly inferior to pecan pie. So that is my 1, 2, and 3 best desserts. If you want to spice it up, you can throw a little ice cream on there.
We used to live. This was when we were in Yorktown, Virginia. We had pecan trees or pecan, and these pecan trees would just dump. I'm only slightly exaggerating when I say metric tons of these things all over the place, to the point
only slightly exaggerating.
Yes, these things would be projectiles too, because these trees were old, so they were very tall.
Oh, yeah.
And once those things are reaching terminal velocity on their way down, they, could kill or maim. And I thought, and I never actually actioned this, but I thought about, I've never actually roasted any of these things. I should collect these things up and sell them or something. But that would have required a level of effort that I was just not prepared to do. So I would just talk
You-
about it, but not actually do
You
it.
have children.
Would you like some?
No, but I mean they are government sanctioned slave labor. So
In the spirit of Thanksgiving, we shall press our children into manual labor.
yeah,
I like the cut of your jib, Daniel. So pecans. Okay, pecan pie. For me, because I'm an American hero and patriot, I'm going to say apple pie.
so typical.
I'm as American as apple pie, if you will. Yes, a la mode. A la mode is optional, so that's 1. 2, banana cream pudding. 12 months out of the year. I mean, is that a Southern thing? I don't
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, banana pudding is Southern.
Yeah. Well, it's banana cream pudding, so you have to have the vanilla wafers and the whipped cream on the top. Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip. That's 2. And then just the third, maybe it's cliche, but you have to have the pumpkin pie. I mean, you got to bring it home. It's Thanksgiving. You got to do it. And this is really the last chance before you roll into the Advent and then Christmas season. So this is kind of the high water mark for fall. So this is your time to get that pumpkin pie in. So that is my answer.
Have you ever had vinegar pie?
Vinegar pie. This sounds like the setup to a joke.
No, not at all.
I have not.
I have an old cookbook from like the 40s and 50s. I saw that recipe in there while I was flipping through. It also has a recipe for brains, but we're talking about pie.
Brain pie. Sweet
so-
breads aren't that sweet?
The recipe takes about 2 tablespoons of vinegar, white vinegar, and about 3 cups of granulated sugar.
To the point where it's gritty.
And I gotta tell you, it's actually very, very tasty.
Oh, Daniel.
It is very, very tasty.
So you
But
rolled your eyes when I said apple pie.
I just thought of
You
it.
and your vinegar pie.
I just thought of it because we were talking about pies.
That sounds like it goes with the olive loaf in James Lilac's book of.
It's actually pretty good. You get a tart and sweet flavor. I would not recommend diabetics having any of it. Because like the recipe is from the rationing days.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did they have this much sugar to make this pie?
Meanwhile, the boys are in Western Europe. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on food before we move on?
No. What do you got next?
Entertainment.
Oh. Okay.
So, NFL. You and I are both.
Fans of the sport of football?
I love the sport of football, but I loathe the NCAA and NFL, and so I'm kind of orphaned on that front right now. So, but yes, the NFL.
Well, typically speaking, I would enjoy sitting down and watching a game post-meal so that I could, pass out. But
Fall asleep in your
now
chair.
that the Lions are actually good again, it's actually pretty entertaining.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, Washington and Dallas every year. I mean, come on. Really?
So for those who don't know, there's 2 NFL games a year, well, at a minimum of 2. I think there have been a few times where there was a third, but a minimum of 2 NFL games every year, and it's always, always, always at Detroit, and always, always, always a second game at Dallas. The away teams change, rotate, whatever.
Well,
but
the team that plays Detroit changes, but Washington and Dallas play.
is it always Washington?
Almost positive. But
I can't say.
for decades, that game has been unwatchable. So I don't know. Maybe they changed things up by now.
Yeah.
But at least Detroit's entertaining again.
Was a former Bears fan. That used to be 2 easy wins in the win category every single year. That's not the case anymore. So, but again, I don't follow the NFL anymore, so if everybody's going to jump on me on this, whatever. So
Yeah.
Okay, so entertainment, we've got football, and they do have some college games, don't they?
Sometimes.
I mean, I know most games are on Saturdays, obviously, but
the NFL has gotten particularly greedy about monopolizing.
I can't believe that, Dan.
Monopolizing television time, so they've started putting on more games on specific days, and they've started, especially like during the playoffs, they then branch out and have games on Saturdays and Sundays now, and it's a lot. It's a lot.
I was unaware that the NFL was greedy. Okay.
Well,
just kidding.
I have informed you thusly.
Okay, entertainment. How about deployments? Think back to any of your deployments. What would you do maybe pre and post meal?
There was almost always somebody with a football, and it was usually a small one, like one of the little like Nerf ones. Sure. And so guys would just be out there throwing it around. Sometimes you really didn't have any time for entertainment. You would eat your quick mermite meal and you'd be headed right out of the wire. But I mean, yeah, somebody would almost always have a football. Yeah. Actually, we played with a taped up football one time. The football did not survive moving to a particular fire base, and so we found a way to inflate it somewhat decently, and then we took 100-mile-an-hour tape.
I mean, you
taped,
wrap and frap it enough. You can,
yes,
yeah,
and so made do with that.
Okay, pretty similar for me. My combat deployments very similar. You got to eat and go. I think one year I was in Afghanistan. We had a German officer who was part of to be honest, I don't remember what business he had, but he was part of a delegation that was kind of rolling through. We were up in the mountains, up in the sticks. But he passed through and he celebrated Thanksgiving with all the Americans. Very nice guy. And he had a box of Cuban cigars, which obviously the embargo doesn't apply to Germany. And so he had a box of Cuban cigars that he saved for the Americans because he knew that was a rare commodity for us, not because he was going to go back to his hooch a couple days later and then get another box or whatever. But he knew how much that would mean to us. And so he shared his whole box of Cuban cigars with us, which was pretty special. I mean, the thought that counts, right?
It's very gracious of him.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. As far as entertainment, yeah. And then I've had several, I use air quotes, deployments where most of these were onesie-twosies, where it was me and maybe a couple other guys. So we had a little bit, they weren't combat deployments, so we had a lot more free time because we weren't necessarily worried about security and all those things. And so same thing, we just lots of food. And then honestly the biggest thing I wanted to do on most of those types of deployments was go back to my room and play video games till I fell asleep. I know that sounds boring, but
you enjoy what free time you have when you have it.
Got to take it where you can get it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So okay, movies.
There really aren't any good Thanksgiving movies. I mean, there are movies for all sorts of other, holidays, particularly Christmas.
We'll get to that one next month.
My goodness. But Thanksgiving, there's not really. There's the animated Freebirds, whatever. But
that one's really out there as far as plots. I mean, it's
yeah.
That one goes down a rabbit hole, but it's entertaining for what it is.
Yeah.
In the mid '90s, I believe it was '94. Disney had it was not animated. It was a acted film called Squanto: A Warrior's Tale, which for what it was very, very well done.
That's Thanksgiving?
Well, that plays a huge part in it.
Okay.
That's a fair question. The entire movie does not encompass itself around Thanksgiving, but it is a major part of it.
Okay.
And it tells the tale of Squanto, obviously, but it also covers, Samoset and you'll recognize a lot of the people along the way.
Okay.
It's very well done, by the way, just as a piece of entertainment. So it's if we have any deep history nerds, they're probably screaming at their computers right now. But it's pretty good.
I love movies,
Yeah.
as everyone knows, and I do not believe I have seen that movie, so I will find a way to check it out.
We had it on VHS for the longest. Lord knows where. That's lost in the sands of time at this point.
I will not go as far to get Disney Plus or whatever that streaming service is. Not for a single movie. No.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm not going to do that. But you can find pretty much everything online, right?
Yeah. Especially mid-90s movies. So here's the question, Dan, that everybody wants to know. People are pining away on the edge of their seat saying, when are they going to get to this? When is the acceptable time to transition into the Advent season? Because Christmas isn't until much later. The Advent. What you people call Christmas.
You people? You people?
When is the time to transition?
I mean, I guess you can do it pretty much whenever you want. I know a lot of people do it, they get started the day after Thanksgiving.
Or Halloween.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I'm not.
Nobody believes
But
this.
but the commercialization of specific holidays has gotten ludicrously out of control. It is not going to be long before the day after Christmas you start seeing Thanksgiving stuff. Or not Thanksgiving, I'm sorry.
I'm so confused
Valentine's
right
Day.
now. Okay. I think that already is a thing, by the way.
So, but anyway, I'm not going to do what everybody thinks I'm going to do.
We're not going to have a Valentine's Day meltdown. The Valentine's Day massacre.
We can talk about that another time.
We will.
But I think that people should wait until December 1st before they start throwing up all their Christmas stuff. Thanksgiving, yes, is one day, but you should take a little bit more time to, be thankful and be grateful for everything, that you have, throughout the year and everything. Yeah. I think you should wait until December 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
My family, we wait until basically when the last person pushes himself away from the Thanksgiving table. I mean, we will put Christmas music on while we're doing the dishes. But we make sure that Thanksgiving is free and clear and the bird has been given his due before we transition.
My mom loves Christmas. Has an entire room that is just Christmas decorations, boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. She loves Christmas. And I think she gets started
In
July.
In Christmas in July.
In her head, she probably gets started in July. But I know that the day after Thanksgiving, I'm going to have to start dodging phone calls about setting up the Christmas tree. I love you, Mom.
You need to be a good son and go help your mother.
I do, all the time.
When beckoned. We'll have a special Christmas episode, so this isn't a Mom's Bouche. But do you like to listen to Mariah Carey's
All I Want for Christmas
All I
Is
Want
You?
for Christmas while you're doing your dishes after Thanksgiving meal?
When it comes to Christmas music, I am very, very traditional in my Christmas music, and no.
This is our sneak preview for one of my favorite memes is which comes out because it's tied to Thanksgiving and that.
Okay, well don't.
This is tied to Thanksgiving because the timing is important. So as soon as Thanksgiving is over, you'll start to see the meme of it's a shot of from The Shining, where you see the woman behind the door, like, oh, she's screaming, and here's Johnny, where he's like bursting through the door.
But it's Mariah Carey.
And it's Mariah Carey. Yeah. That is one of my, and that's, that is her kickoff into the Christmas season.
Now you have to post that on social media.
Okay.
On the day after Thanksgiving.
The day after Thanksgiving. Okay. So we've had some fun here. We're going to get a little bit serious and talk about things that we're actually grateful for. I shall lead.
Okay.
Things I'm grateful for. So I retired from the Army this year. So I'm grateful for an opportunity to serve in this nation's military, in the Army to be specific. There were times where I didn't quite feel like I was being blessed. I think most service members, everybody has their own service they can talk about.
Oh boy.
There are certainly times where I didn't feel like I was living out my best life, as the cliche is now.
Sometimes it seems like a thankless job.
It is often a thankless job, which is why they call it the service, right? True. So that's also something for young people considering joining.
Yeah.
It's called the service for a reason, and it's not supposed to be something for college money and kicks. Like sometimes it sucks, but I'm grateful that I live in the greatest country in the world, and that I had the opportunity to lead soldiers for a pretty long time in the greatest country in the world, in the greatest service. I've had a lot of time to reflect on it, really in the last year or so. It's been probably about 2 years since we decided in earnest that we were going to retire at the time that we did, and then there was kind of a slow rollout for that. So I've had a lot of time to reflect, but last month is when it became totally official. Obviously me being on terminal leave for a considerable time, but the things that I learned along the way, the character that was developed along the way. I'm still going through my sanctification, and will continue until the day that I die, because as believers, that's how this goes. You're never a finished product, right? I'm grateful for, and so to go off of that, I'm grateful for my precious family. First and foremost, my wife, who we got married about 5 years-ish into my career. So she was there for the majority of it, to include we were engaged while I was in Iraq and all that stuff. So just what an incredible woman, patient, kind, all the reasons why I chose to marry her in the first place, and she remains all those things. And seeing the mother that she's become, I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of that, albeit a critical part of it as the husband and father. And so obviously my children as well. I have 4 lovely children, and I've loved seeing them grow and mature, and they're not little anymore, which is still hard for both of us to believe, I think.
Yeah, I know. I always think of them as being much smaller than they actually are.
And conversely, they think they're a lot bigger than they are too. So
yeah.
That's how this goes. So family, my parents who live here in town, and we get to see regularly. I adore my parents, and the critical role they played in my, I'm going to use the moral formation. Dan's over there cackling. So, parents, of course, and my beloved sister and brother-in-law, and their boys, who are, they're not little either.
No.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So, dear friends like you, who have certainly put up with a lot from me over the years, to say the least.
More than I will ever let on.
Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yes.
And there's others. So, friends, family, all those things, all of our material blessings. We've truly been blessed. We don't take it for granted. It's. Let me rephrase that. Of course, we take it for granted.
Of course.
We try our hardest to acknowledge these things. Of course, we take it for granted, not intentionally. It's just it's kind of part of our programming, right?
Yeah.
So this time of year, we kind of led with the not Chaucer, but with George Washington, his proclamation here. That's a deliberate thing that we wanted to add to this, to stop and take time to read that, because we're being intentional in our gratitude. So I've probably gone on longer than I should have. But.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do tend to do that.
Yeah.
I
was a commander.
I think that Roger likes to hear the sound of his own voice.
My dulcet tones.
Do you have anything else to add?
The mic is yours.
Oh, okay. First and foremost, I am most grateful that I wake up every morning.
Amen.
Because God knows I've been in some situations where that could have not been true today.
For sure.
And I will try to keep this short, but I am also grateful that every morning I wake up in these God-blessed United States.
In these United States.
Because there are some terrible places out there.
Yeah.
Truly, truly awful places, like France. And I'm glad that I don't wake up there.
Like France.
Like France.
Yep.
And then, of course, my family, my wonderful parents and brother and sister, my children, who, God bless them, they are finding themselves in their young adulthood, shall we say? And
I think we all stumbled through that.
Yep, they're in those years now, but of course I am very grateful for all those continued blessings, and of course I'm grateful for great friends that I have continued to support us along this great journey.
Absolutely.
And of course I'm grateful for you, even though you are the millstone around my neck.
Better not to have been born.
But those are the many things that we are grateful for.
Yeah.
And before we get on to our final thanks,
yes,
I think that we should make some time for a couple of important announcements. Tomorrow, the day after we're done filming this, is Roger's son's birthday party. Mm-hmm. So happy birthday, Derek. This of course, will come out a week or so afterwards.
Not too long after.
But happy birthday.
Yep.
Then, of course, there is a dear friend of mine, Sabrina Simmons. She is the purveyor of probably the best cucumber salad I've ever eaten in my life.
Patent pending.
And she always was willing to make it for me at 3 o'clock in the morning after a long night at the Gala No. 2. And so happy birthday, Sabrina. I love you. And last but not least, every few years, my son's birthday falls on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And this is that year.
Yes.
And it'll probably be 4 or 5 years before it happens again. But happy birthday, son. I love you.
Very nice. Okay, well, we're winding this down. We're grateful for the opportunity that we have to present this show, such as it is.
Yes.
To everybody, every other week or however often we can get these things out.
Yeah.
It's been cathartic for both Dan and I to be able to sit down and do something we're passionate about.
Yep.
We've met a lot of really amazing people.
We truly, truly have.
This thing continues to grow. Each and every week almost we're getting new business opportunities and getting introduced to more and more amazing people, and the future is bright. So as we wind down it's not a complete full calendar year, but pretty close as we wind down the first year of this show. Mm-hmm. We're grateful for everybody out there who has taken this journey with us. We know sometimes we get windy. Some of these episodes get a little bit long, but it's a passion project for us. Yeah.
We know that the audience really appreciates the 3.5 hour long episodes, and so that is the time limit we are going to constrain ourselves to now. If if it does not go on for at least 3.5 hours, we are just going to have...
Just scrap the whole thing.
we're either going to scrap the entire thing, or I don't know. I think I've got footage of you singing in the shower.
Yeah. George Michael. Yeah.
Let us know what you think about that. But
without further ado,
we do want to express our thanks to you, the audience, the people that have made this happen, and the people that are going to keep these stories of these veterans, going. So, without further ado, first and foremost, thank you to our friends and family and the people here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. It's our home base, and of course, we have to start with them. So, thank you.
Thank you, listeners in Frankfurt am Main in Deutschland.
Yeah. And thank you to our listeners in Denver, Colorado.
Thank you, Madrid, Spain, our largest overseas contingent.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just in Madrid. It's several places all over Spain. Yes. Yeah. Thank you to our listeners in Parrish, Florida.
Thank you to... Oh, you're making me do Winnipeg, Canada after we picked on Canada already. Yes. Thank you to our beloved Canuck friends. Thank you.
It's not just Winnipeg. There's Toronto and some other places too. But
some wonderful environs.
Your Thanksgiving is fake, Canada, but we still appreciate you listening.
We love you anyway.
Thank you to our listeners in Boise, Idaho.
Thank you, Sydney, Australia.
Yes, and thank you, Westchester, Pennsylvania listeners.
Thank you, Brussels, Belgium.
Auburn Hills, Michigan.
Tower Hamlets, jolly old England.
Milton, Delaware.
San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Harker Heights, Texas. Thank you very much.
And Jonggu, Republic of Korea.
Good pronunciation.
Yes, I lived there.